Hey everybody, it's FMPONE here to look at DE Flick by Jay from Chicago, Jamona Hehe, B-Man, Frodo Yo-Yo, Broken, and Golf Bones. So, first of all, let me just turn off my HUD. We can appreciate this really nice looking view that is establishing right away the theme of the map, which is sort of a Hollywood studio. So that looks really nice. I like the fact that I've spawned into the map and I'm looking at Chief's Kitchen, Californian Grill, and I'm just kind of appreciating a behind the scenes area here. Inaccessible player space, but it looks pretty nice. Maybe we could smooth out that corner right there, because you know I'm all about the smooth corners. But yeah, this one's a nice, very nice spawn area. I really like the marble here. Really like the way that big red carpet looks. I wish this gate was kind of a little bit higher quality, something a little bit more realistic, more on the player scale. Let me see if I go third person here. Yeah, that gate's looking kind of comically big, I would say. This is always fun when people put the Mapcore community members on the map. I like that. Really nice reflections on that. So yeah, really like the spawn point so far. A lot of visual interest, and that makes a big difference over time to have a really interesting spawn point. Players are going to spend an awful long time in the spawn point. And wow, look at that building. That's a really nice looking building there. Some of these awnings are looking kind of low poly, so like one thing to keep in mind is that if you have this really nice building and you know that people are going to buy a Scout and zoom in on it, you know, what about some railings here? What about, you know, a few more polygons in these edges? Maybe a shader effect like metal so they can catch some glare here at the top. Add a little visual flair, kind of like what you got going on here. It's those little details sometimes that make a big difference in how people actually evaluate a map and say, you know, is this like a decent looking map, or is this a map that's like really going to impress me with the visuals? So I notice here there's some kind of unusual shadowing going on, reflections. Kind of looks like these planters are not really reflecting any, or not really casting any shadows. This mulch seems a little bit out of scale. So yeah, I'm noticing right now like some inconsistencies on the art side. Like there's some things that look really cool, and there's some things that look like a little bit more kind of dated, and then there's some things that just kind of look a little bit odd. So I like what they're doing here. You know, if you're gonna, and this is a neat little asset. I like that asset. If you're gonna invest, you know, the time and energy to make one of these areas, it's really smart what they're doing. They're just carrying it across, you know, allowing you to continue to look at it. You know, if you think about it as an investment of time when you're making a level, if you have an area like this, you might as well get as much out of it as you possibly can, right? I mean, that's just good sense. Love that. I mean, everything's super consistent in the world building. It's all very consistent, which is great. Eagle Patrol, very cool. feel like I'm seeing a lot of tiling here. This material striking me as inauthentic. Really like that smooth edge. See, like, this is the kind of thing that gets points in my book. Really like that. You know, when we talk about maps are comprised of gameplay, art, and polish, you know, obviously this has nothing to do with gameplay, but I definitely think it has a lot to do with art and polish, that's for sure. So one thing I try to be careful with plants is that they don't clip into the world, because you know, yeah, it looks a little awkward and whatever, but when you go through so much effort, and you take so much pride in what you're building, you want to really avoid situations where that illusion of reality is broken. It's just undermining everything else that you're doing. So just think about it that way. I think this is looking a little odd with the plant on the wire there. I really like the lighting here. I like the idea for sure. It's kind of like a, you know, medieval scene, kind of a fantasy scene. What is this? I'm just gonna. It's like a mask. So it was kind of hard to tell what that was from a distance, and I would say even when you zoom in, the payoff there for the player is not that strong. So, and then I hate to nitpick, but this fountain or this waterfall texture is just kind of not doing it for me. You could have somebody author a custom shader or something, or just pursue a different idea if the execution is too difficult, which, you know, sometimes execution is just going to be very challenging on an idea like that. So one really cool thing about this map is that it has all these different posters, and I just kind of like all of them, personally. Love that giant blimp too. It's pretty cool. So this road texture kind of looks like a lot of the other textures in the map to me, where it just seems like everything is tiling too much. I'm not exactly sure what's going on there. It seems like maybe the materials are too dense. In other words, like, it almost looks like somebody took 4 2K textures and like put them in one Photoshop scene and then shrank it down and then did it again and then exported that, if that makes sense. I don't know what's going on with this kind of noise on the texture there. Doesn't look too great. So I really like the way that this building has like a gradient effect, where it's like dark and kind of a little bit dirty at the top, and then it's kind of gradient down into light, and then it even has like a darker trim. So I like the way that looks. One thing you could do to really elevate this is at the bottom kind of have, you know, like a simple curb prop or something, to, or like just some kind of a transition detail. But yeah, this is a nice looking building. yeah, once again, the texture's just kind of not coming together for me. Yeah, I think definitely a weakness that I'm noticing in this map is the materials. And I don't know if it's because they're trying to author their own custom materials and maybe just a little bit lacking in the know-how of how to do that. Or I don't know, for example, like whether maybe this wood is a default material. I'm not sure, but it's just a little bit ill-fitting, I would say. Everything is just kind of a little bit ill-fitting on the material side. And I think this is one of the real risks of authoring your own materials is like, it's an enormous challenge. That learning curve can be really, really tricky. And as you're figuring it out, things can look a little strange at times. So like this material, I'm not really clear on what it's supposed to be. So you always, number one, always want people to be able to figure out just on a basic level, like, is this plastic or is this paper, or is this some kind of a synthetic material? And I noticed that it doesn't appear to have any roughness information, so that might be one of the reasons that it's really difficult to kind of identify what it actually is, because it kind of looks like it could be a lot of different things. So it's very ambiguous, I would say. I notice as I'm walking around the level, I'm a little bit disoriented. It's just a little hard to orient myself to the world, because I feel like everything's kind of a backlot, and it's just kind of unrolling. It's kind of an unrolling backlot, which is a little bit of a confusing feeling. So one thing to keep in mind is that when you have like this somewhat odd looking materials, so like what's going on here is that there is a cube map that's extending from this area where the waterfall is all the way to this metal panel. So it's grabbing lighting information from all the way over there and reflecting it here. This is a situation where you do not want to have one gigantic cube map, because it's going to create that problem. So you want to have a probe that's like pretty much specific to this area, and then you can use blending to blend the probe so that you won't get a harsh transition. Let's see if I can jump on these. I guess these aren't really trampolines, they're more like for when you crash into them, but to me it kind of looks like a trampoline, and it kind of just makes me want to jump here. So I'm a little it's a little bit irrational of me, but I'm a little bit frustrated that I can't trampoline off of this. Make of that feedback what you will, for whatever value that has. Yeah, this is another really questionable material, because I'm just sitting here wondering, I'm thinking, so I'm hearing metal underneath me, but it also kind of looks like it could be like a painted wood. Material work on this map is definitely holding it back, in a lot of ways. I feel like this metal and this sign don't really fit in with this Old West environment. Yeah, I have a lot of questions about the material work here as well. Like, I get that this is supposed to be an old Wild West town, but this wood almost looks like it could be like metal siding. Super contrasted. And then there's a lot of contrast between the different wood colors. So this is a lot of contrast to throw at players' eyes, and it's going to wear them out, fatigue them mentally. You know, really what the map should be in this area is kind of like brown wood, right? More of this color tone, but a lot less contrast. And if you were going to have this type of wood, it would be painted. It would be painted onto just ordinary wood. And so there wouldn't be this kind of shiny, almost neon looking, light coming off of it. So just some really strange material stuff going on where it's, questionable. Maybe we should have just used the valve textures to avoid some of these odd kind of contrast issues. And this may even be a valve texture, but I don't think it is, and it kind of seems ill-fitting if it is. So this is one of my favorite rooms in the map, and I really like these flowing lights and these bold shapes. I think this is one of the areas that suffers the least from issues with the materials being too contrasty, because metal is a contrasting material, and it actually, it kind of thrives on this style of visual that the creators seem to have. So like everywhere in this map where there is just explicit use of metal, I actually think looks really good, like here and in T-Spawn, because I think the author of this map, from an artistic standpoint, seems to have a fascination with contrast, which makes this room really fun to walk around in, but makes an area like this that naturally would not have a lot of contrast not as much fun to walk around in. So it's kind of like you have to know your tendencies as an artist, right? If your tendency is that you really like these super contrasted, contrast all the time, maybe go against your tendencies in an area like this, and kind of embrace the fact that it's maybe not your natural preference, but I really like the way that dome is kind of interacting with this stage as well. This is a room that really came together for me, I would say. I've noticed when I've run around this map before that the screen right here is super blurry from a distance. And then I think I've also noticed that when you stick around, it tends to get unblurry. I can't imagine what's causing that. I actually have no idea. But I will say that it looks really nice. So I'm noticing that these signs are definitely helping me orient myself, because the last time in the video where I said, oh, I don't really know where I'm going, and I looked up at these signs, so like now I have a pretty firm grasp of where I am. But I noticed that it's really hard to connect. The routing here is just kind of, it feels very, very hard to connect. Like maybe we need some explicit signage that's not kind of inconsistent. Like you have this signage here, then you have this type of signage here. I think there may just need to be a uniform type of signage, not unlike the Valve technique where they just have big graffiti with the letters on it. You know, sometimes you really have to beat players over the head when it comes to navigation to help them out, to help them understand. I guess I don't find myself having strong opinions on this area, which is maybe not a good thing. I like this graffiti, but I just feel like conceptually here there's maybe not enough of a concept going on. It just feels like a very I mean, there's some cool ideas like this roller coaster. It would be nice if they were brought closer so that I could actually see them and appreciate them, and they're not like tucked in a corner. I even think I see, wow, so it's kind of criminal to put that like all the way over there, and then what I can actually see really is just like this big square building. That's it's kind of unfortunate. I definitely like this walkway. I like the way that looks and feels. I really like the way it feels to move in this space. It's very nice. The cow's looking a little rough, but I guess you could say it's like a movie prop, right? It's funny. I really like this UFO. This UFO, I almost wish this was like a bomb site, because I feel like that would be really, really fun. So yeah, back in this area. This area definitely seems like a huge waste as well, because it's like, you know, what is this? What am I looking at? It's some kind of mechanical area. What's down here? Wouldn't it be nice if this area, it was what this room was? Because this is just so bland, you know? Like, this is too bland to be your bomb site. When you have a bunch of different ideas. You could do this idea. You could do the UFO. You could do this fountain area. Get back to the UFO. This should have been your bomb site, not this. You know, that's how you take, I mean, this room, you know, what, it's like some vents and ducts and stuff. It's not nowhere near as cool as UFO with a cow. I mean, this could have been the cow. I could have been hiding behind the cow prop. Wouldn't that be a lot more fun than this? I sure think so. So yeah, there's definitely some good here, but I think what's really holding this map back is just it doesn't seem to be embracing the theme quite as much as you'd want. Like, perfect example again in CT Spawn, how you've got this really cool roller coaster, but the level is not embracing it. The level is almost like pretending like it doesn't exist. Like, let's say somebody created a roller coaster asset and handed it to them, And the reaction was, oh, don't show that to players. It's like, no, we want to show that to players. We want players to see that. We want it to be front and center. UFO, don't show that to players. Put that below them, behind a painted glass. No, make that the bomb site. Let's embrace the fun. Embrace it. We want to embrace the fun. This is not fun. This makes me sad. The emotions that I feel when I look at this are emptiness, loneliness, and sadness. When I look at this cow about to get abducted by a UFO, I'm having fun. I'm ready to party. So sometimes it's just about your mentality. I see elements of fun in this. I really do. I see those elements, but those have got to be your prime time moments. I see the elements of fun. They definitely exist in this level, but and I really like this globe graphic. I think that came out really cool, really well. But yeah, it's challenging to make levels. Nobody's gonna say making levels is easy, and I think this level is actually a pretty good illustration of what makes mapping so difficult. Because there are good ideas here, there are fun things here, there is a lot of effort here, a lot of energy here, a lot of enthusiasm here, a lot of hard work here, a lot of positive things here, and yet I still don't think it all comes together and adds up. That's how challenging it is to make maps. It's a super difficult endeavor, and even in a map where there's so much cool stuff to look at like this, because of the problems, because of the areas like this, I kind of still end up with a hollow feeling, and it still doesn't feel like it's living up to its potential. So that would kind of be my overall feedback. I think this is looking a little weird with how scaled up that texture is, but I like the idea. So yeah, I guess my overall kind of message, having walked around this level, is like, I see the effort, I respect the effort. The effort is definitely going to lead in the right direction, but I don't think there are quite enough areas on the map that really pop like this as it currently stands. But I definitely see the effort.